Welcome back, traveler. The tale of Tanya continues tonight, so take a deep breath and step into the next chapter. And remember, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Time, impossible to determine. Place, somewhere outside space, beyond the event horizon. Consciousness returned slowly. Her chest was constricted with a choking sensation, as if she were under a massive column of water. Fighting her helplessness, she struggled to reach the surface, and finally her mind latched onto a light in the distance. With a final effort, she broke through. Heavy breaths escaped her mouth, her head ringing like a bell. But Tanya struggled to open her eyes. A bright light hit her retina, yet she adapted after a couple of seconds. Her body felt heavy, as if she'd hauled a wagon full of potatoes, yet simultaneously weightless. A strange sensation. Tanya moved her hand, and to her surprise, she did so easily. Too easily, even. There was no resistance, as if her arm were made of air. She looked closely, trying to understand the phenomenon. Her hand was transparent. And not just her hand, her entire body was the same. What is happening? Tanya looked around. For a moment, it seemed as if she was still asleep. The light that had struck her eyes upon waking, like a spark against the night, was lost in the black space. Darkness and emptiness surrounded her. She couldn't see a thing. Everywhere she looked was shrouded in gloom. Staring into it, it seemed material. Black tentacles of shadows, as if answering her thoughts, reached towards her. The more she stared, the more her consciousness slipped into the abyss of nothingness. What nonsense! Where's the light coming from, then? The answer came almost immediately. The light was emanating from herself. She was its only source. A golden glow, originating from the device around her neck, wrapped her body like a mantle. The source, of course, was the magical converter, the invention of that damn genius, maniac, the Elenum 95. The moment Tanya averted her gaze from the device's light, the shadows, as if alive again, reached for her. It seemed their only purpose was to drag her into the abyss, yet upon hitting the barrier of light, they merely writhed in agony. Tanya shivered. What kind of third-rate thriller had she fallen into? She tried to recall the last thing before she blacked out, but it was difficult. Her head was still throbbing, and her thoughts were like jelly. At that moment, something strange happened again. The surrounding shadows rippled and swirled in the vortex. A picture formed before her eyes like a screen in a cinema. In an instant, a scene appeared. An empty space wrapped in white light, where a girl and a gray-haired old man with a waist-length beard stood opposite each other. Being X. The blonde girl glared at the old man in a toga, but he merely watched her actions with a sneer. The girl threw a black disc-shaped object the size of a fist toward him. The old man easily caught it and glanced at it disdainfully. However, a moment later, the sneer vanished without a trace. Surprise flashed in his eyes, replaced by shock. The black disc collapsed into a single point, as if under immense pressure, and then space itself began to distort. The point of space, like an insatiable abyss, began to swallow everything around it. The old man's face took on a hideous expression. His gaze was ready to incinerate, but he was too busy, as the old man's body was rapidly being dragged into the vortex of distortions. The girl watching this burst into ringing laughter. A moment later, it was over, and the girl turned, intending to leave. Or rather, tried to, but for some reason she couldn't move. Her face, like the old man's, took on a hideous expression. Surprise gave way to shock. Sweat beaded on her forehead. She felt herself being pulled in after him. She screamed desperately as she was dragged toward the vortex, clawing at the floor, tears streaming down her delicate face. While the variety of expletives was astonishing for a lady her age, nevertheless, it was all useless, and the girl, like the old man, vanished inside the spatial vortex. The image dissolved, and Tanya was once again alone in the darkness with her thoughts. Using the knowledge of the 21st century, the time of her first life, she had told the doctor about the concept behind the Large Hadron Collider. She remembered that theoretically, it was possible to create micro black holes with it. This was the plan to get rid of the annoying parasite, being X. That at least should affect him. It was a micro, but a black hole nonetheless. Well, summarizing the results, she could safely say the plan was a success. Almost. Doctor, you bastard! He mentioned that due to a lack of energy, it wouldn't last even a second. So why the hell did it turn out so stable? Tanya looked around again. She didn't like what she saw at all. Emptiness. Darkness. Nothing. Was she inside a black hole? How long had she been here? No idea. Time ceased to matter. Seconds, minutes, hours, days? Maybe even years? They all merged into a single flow. No, was it even right to reason this way? Time and space are inverted in this place. Is the concept of space-time applicable here at all? Doubtful, as this is the so-called event horizon, the phenomenon of infinite space-time curvature, a singularity. Those geniuses would surely trade any limb just to get any reliable data from here, even their genius heads. But I'm not going to give them such a gift. What an irony of fate. She ended up here because of the doctor and Being X, but she was still alive because of them. The magical converter was utilizing the energy of Being X's divine curse at full capacity. She was probably only still alive because of it. It didn't matter if she resembled a ghost. She was still thinking, therefore she existed. That was all that mattered. She had no intention of giving up. The only question left was how to get out of here. But there was the problem. She didn't even have a rough idea. The golden glow slightly dimmed again, and Tanya closed her eyes, warding off bad thoughts. This was a truly strange place. There was nothing here. Absolutely nothing. Only darkness and emptiness. The darkness, as if taking material form, was wrapping its tendrils around everything, including her. Only the golden barrier prevented them from breaking through. From time to time, images surfaced, forming into full pictures. She could observe the lives of other people, sometimes families, sometimes even nations, and sometimes whole worlds. Their fates began like dawn, but in the end, they all crumbled to dust, fading like a sunset. A clear realization came. Nothing in this world is eternal. Her body had partially lost its contours. The cold intensified, freezing the processes in her body. Fear gripped her heart like a bony hand. Trying to escape this hell, she cursed Being X. She cursed the doctor, the bastard who once again failed to consider the consequences of his inventions. She cursed the idiotic Homo sapiens who, like a herd of sheep, followed Being X, pulling people further into the global slaughterhouse problem. She didn't even have a rough idea. All she ever wanted was peace. All she wanted was a good and decent life. What was wrong with that? Helplessness, powerlessness, infirmity.
She felt as if some maniac had chained her to a guillotine and allowed her to watch the blade slowly descend. The feeling of icy metal at her neck drove her insane. Surely after being X disappeared, the situation would stabilize. Perhaps not immediately. A price would have to be paid for the stupidity, but inevitably, sooner or later, the madness would end and peace would come. Peace, huh? To hell with this peace. Why the hell? What did she endure all this for? What does she get? Disappearance, like a speck of dust she knows not where? Why the hell does she need peace in the world if she won't be in it? No, she didn't sign up for martyrdom. Why should she pay such a price? She was utterly dissatisfied with the terms of this deal. Damn, 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 damn. What the hell? She could only curse her fate, unable to move. Her body seemed atrophied and no longer obeyed. It had become so transparent that she could barely perceive her own outlines in the gloom of the abyss. The end was inevitable. She could already smell the stench of the creature in a black cowl behind her. The icy cold of the scythe blade, the black shadow cutting her off from the world of the living. Damn. A drop of moisture ran down her cheek. Something cracked in her heart. I don't want to die. Through her blurring vision, she watched the last fading sparks. Why the tears, little girl? A voice sounded from above. Did someone upset you? Tanya flinched at the voice behind her. She hadn't noticed him move at all, though her eyes hadn't left him for a moment. Don't pout. Here, eat some ice cream. A hand rested on her shoulder, and in his hand, as if from nowhere, appeared a chocolate-covered ice cream bar on a stick. Come on now, Big Brother won't hurt you. Drops of moisture on the glaze glistened seductively in the sparks of her fading glow. As if hypnotized, Tanya watched them trail down, feeling the fresh coolness emanating into her hand. This definitely wasn't a hallucination. A heat flared in her chest. Desire clouded her judgment. She felt something there that she desperately lacked, a piece of life. Like an exhausted traveler finding an oasis in the middle of a desert, she devoured the ice cream. An indescribable taste spread in her mouth. She felt as if she had never eaten anything more delicious in her life. Coolness and freshness spread in gentle waves through her body, bringing energy to her atrophied muscles. A wave of ecstasy washed over her, casting aside all pain, anxiety, and worries. She only came to when she was licking the chocolate glaze off her fingers. It was then she met the punk's smug grin. And you're quite the sweet tooth for a middle-aged guy. The punk's words served as the trigger, jump-starting her thought process, and the realization of what she had just done hit her. A mental image flashed of her passionately gorging on a chocolate ice cream in front of some entity. Her body froze, and her face flushed with heat. She wanted to sink through the floor. Oh, yes, that face. That's what I wanted to see. All right, we'll call that payment for the energy, he winked. With his words, Tanya realized something else. Moments ago, she could barely move, but now? She glanced down at herself. The golden glow, which had been on its last breath, flared up with renewed intensity, and energy flowed through her body like a full river. What did you just do? Who are you? Her tongue barely moved. The memories of the recent nightmare were fresh. You know, it's not often you meet people here. He ignored the question. I wonder how you got here. He waved his